And we are on. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Mondays. Good band. And it's Music Monday. See what I did there? See what I did there? That's what I did there. What's up, Karen? You're first. Good job. What's up, Andrew? Good to see ya. Once we get to 30, we will officially begin. You know the drill. What's up, Spider? Howdy, howdy. What's up, Matthew? Good to see everybody. What's up, DLJ? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Hello, Lucy. Lucy's hanging out. What's up, Frederick? Good morning, Lucy. I already said. What's up, Blaze Silverwolf? And yes, I am having a good day. It's just begun. This is my morning. What's up, Zero Divisor? What's up, Pyramid 7? What's up, M Topper? What's up, Andrew? What's up, Sinead? How are you? Good to see ya. Keep left. You sure did hear a cat. Lucy's here. What's up, William? So we're almost there. It's saying we're at 15 where I'm at. So, yeah. Howdy, howdy, Susan. What's up, Ahmed? What president am I celebrating today? We're going to talk about that a little more, but I'm celebrating a president that hasn't happened yet. That's the president I'm celebrating. Because the best president of my lifetime was a president who was a moderate Republican. So, it's kind of lame. What do I think of Jefferson Airplane? I like him. Yeah, I like Jefferson Airplane. And we are at 30. What's up, Francois? And welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. This is Get Your Blues On with John, the world's first virtual blues jam. My name's Metal Mouth Ron. I am your host. And that's what we do here. Pick up your guitars, pick up your basses, pick up your harmonicas. I'm, of course, going to be on Metal Mouth as well. And this is Get Your Blues On with John. Although my name's Ron. No, just kidding. This is Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? You guys tweet me articles, you send me ideas, and that's how we build the show. I'm seeing everything for the first time. If this is your first time, how do you participate in the show and get a topic in? You tweet it at me in the morning. Hey, Lucy. Tweet it at me in the morning. Or the afternoon. Tweet it at me before the show starts. It might not be morning where you're at. But tweet it at me or drop it in our Reddit subsection, reddit.com/r/getyournewsonwithron. And that's how we build the show. I go on the Twitter. I go on the Reddit. I start lining stuff up. Then I tweet it out before the show starts. And that's how we do things. But today's Music Monday, so we're going to do a music topic. First, I'll answer a question. Do I like metal? I'm not a huge metal guy, but yes, there's certainly some metal I like. The obvious, Motorhead. I like Motorhead a good bit. And then I liked a lot of, I guess it's metal adjacent, but I liked a lot of kind of the early 2000s wave of hardcore, like Poison the Well and stuff like that. Every Time I Die. And then I like a lot of the original hardcore wave of that too. Although that's not technically metal, but I do enjoy it. So, and then of course I like the classic stuff, Black Sabbath and stuff like that. So I'm not a big metal guy, but I do like some metal stuff. I'm more of a punk guy. Oh, and I really like war metal, but I don't know anything about it. Like there used to be this war metal show on this college radio station when I was in high school. Like I was in high school and there was this college radio station. It's still there, and they would have a war metal show every Saturday night. And I don't know where the stuff had to be like from like Germany or Sweden or all the above, and they would just play this war metal, and it was like just this epic, like there were these chants, and it was very melodic, like it kind of had like a little bit of like harmonious guitars and what have you, and it was incredible. I couldn't tell you any of the artists. I couldn't tell you where exactly it was from or what it was. But me and my friends would like listen to that, and it was just nuts. It would be like, like it was like epic prog metal meets like melodic hardcore, and it was just fantastic stuff. So I like that. But if anyone knows more about that style of music, please email me, because I don't know anything. I don't know anything about it other than what I just told you. And we're going back a little while now, because again, I was in high school. But yeah, if anyone knows anything about that genre of music, please do send me some stuff. I think it's casually referred to as war metal, or like it's like some type of melodic prog metal. But I really enjoyed it. There wasn't much singing in it. It was mostly instrumental. And it was just like harmonious, like harmonies when there was singing. So anyway, yeah. So that answers that question. My topic for the day, I wanted to know, and this was suggested to me as a potential topic, soundtracks, your favorite soundtracks from movies. What are they? I'll go first. My favorites, some of my favorites that I got to point out, The Wedding Singer, Adam Sandler. First of all, fun movie. That's a really fun movie. Adam Sandler nailed the formula the first time when it came to movies. Like, Billy Madison, genius. Happy Gilmore, really fun movie. And that sort of set the tone for the type of movies he should be making. These just absurdist, self-aware, over-the-top intentionally, funny, quirky, a lot of lines you're going to remember and talk about at the water cooler movies. That's what Adam Sandler, he nailed it. He nailed it. Then he decided, well, I want to do drama now. And in my opinion, not as good. Spanglish, I thought, was painful, if I'm being honest. I thought that movie was painful to get through. And Funny People was one of those movies that set up the table to be a really cool movie and then just burned the table to the ground. I thought the second half of that movie was atrocious. I almost turned it off like a couple times. 50 First Dates I did not see. So and then some of his more recent stuff I haven't seen even. So, you know, I'm just speaking from my personal experience, but that's my take on it. But Wedding Singer, the soundtrack. So first of all, there's that original song that he did, Someone Kill Me, which is a really fun song. And in the movie, he says, I was listening to a lot of The Cure when I wrote this song. Now, that song sounds nothing like any Cure song I ever heard, which I think was part of the fun of it. But when I heard that song and I liked it as a kid I think I was in maybe 7th grade or 8th grade, I was like, I got to check out The Cure. And I did, and The Cure became my favorite band. So I appreciate that. And then the rest of that soundtrack, just a bunch of really fun 80s pop tunes. Another one I'll give a shout out to, Almost Famous. Just classic rock, front to back. But they really changed the way we view the song Tiny Dancer. That's a song that I think a lot of people kind of overlooked in Elton John's catalog, comparatively speaking. And because of that one scene in Almost Famous, they really brought out just how awesome that song is, how cathartic that song is, and how, man, it's just a fun sing-along, isn't it? I mean, what else can you say about it? It's a uniter. It's a beautiful track, Tiny Dancer by Elton John. And I really think that was brought back into the spotlight by the Almost Famous soundtrack. So those are two of mine, Wedding Singer, Almost Famous. I'm going to name one more, and this is going to be totally goofy, and you guys are going to be like, what? Meet the Deedles. Now, Meet the Deedles, I have never even seen that movie. Never saw it. I don't really care. I'm not going to see it at this point. But their entire soundtrack, this came out right when Third Wave Ska was really breaking, right when Mighty Mighty Boss Tones had the Impression That I Get come out, and this entire soundtrack was Third Wave Ska music, and it was meant for children because it was a Disney movie, so it really introduced a young generation to Third Wave Ska that really helped usher in that Third Wave Ska wave that I know some people, no pun intended with the word wave there, and I know some people didn't like that era. They didn't appreciate it. I did. I still appreciate all that stuff. I really do. And I appreciate the first wave, too. I know someone, Garden Gnome, shouting out the specials. But I really got into a lot of that ska-core stuff. Catch-22, Real Big Fish back in their day. I even like Goldfinger, some of their stuff. Now, some of Goldfinger's stuff is a little time-stamped. It has a bit of like a 90s tinge that I don't appreciate as much. But I like some of their songs. And Less Than Jake. I used to love Less Than Jake. So those are my three. Meet the Deedles, which I've never even seen the movie. Wedding Singer, and Almost Famous. So let me see what you guys are talking about. Schultze says, good tune, and I like how Elton John songs tell a story. Well, as you may know, that's not because of Elton John. That's because of Bernie Taupin, Elton John's lyricist. There's a really funny parody on South Park, and, you know, who knows how accurate it is or isn't. But Elton John is this guy, and he's playing piano at a bar. And he's like, man, I thought for sure I was going to have a hit with Cheddar Cheese Girl. And then Chef comes in, and he's like, Elton, you're a brilliant pianist, but your lyrics are really freaking lame. I know this guy, Bernie Taupin, and that's how it happened. It was Chef from South Park. But in reality, I do think that Elton John and Bernie Taupin started working together when they were teenagers. So they were working together for a really long time. So I guess early on, Elton John, which of course is not his real name, it's like Reginald something. But Elton John realized lyrics weren't his thing, teamed up with Bernie Taupin, and they made some beautiful music. And the first song they wrote together, one of the first songs, was Your Song. And Bernie penned that song out when he was 18 years old. It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide. I don't have much money, but if I did, I'd buy a big house where we both could live. If I was a sculptor, you don't need me to recite the whole thing. Some of you guys know that song. It's one of the most beautiful songs ever written, in my humble opinion. One of my favorite songs in the world, Will Always Be. That dude penned that out when he was 18 years old. And then Elton John put the music to it when he was 18 years old. Holy shit. That's a little humbling, is it not? Right? And you guys do not want me to sing it. Reginald Dwight, DLJ, points out the name. Lewis David says Bernie Taupin was a poetic genius, perhaps the greatest ever. I don't know. That's a tough superlative. But let me get back to some of your guys' soundtracks. Garden State has a really good soundtrack. Jordan says, shitty movie, he says. I've never seen Garden State, so I wouldn't know. Trying to Be Fine saw the specials at the Whiskey. That's freaking awesome. Karen just saw Elton John 3 weeks ago. Guys, if you want to see Elton John, you got 3 years. He's doing a 3-year farewell tour. So you got 3 years to see Elton John. Let's see, what other soundtracks are you guys shouting out? Great Balls of Fire, Dirty Dancing. Shrek. And yeah, the Shrek soundtrack. So the Shrek soundtrack has that song. They have the cover of Hallelujah. And I think it's whose cover? Is it Jeff Buckley's cover? No, it's Rufus Wainwright's cover of Hallelujah, which is a great cover of Hallelujah. I prefer the original above all of them. But I think Rufus Wainwright's version is on the Shrek soundtrack. Donnie Darko. Thank you. Yes. Mick one, Donnie frickin' Darko. Now that's a beautiful movie. I've never met anyone that disliked Donnie Darko as a movie. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction. And Mizzy says Quentin Tarantino has the best soundtracks. The first 2 Oceans movies, Chromatic Tree gives a shout out to. Yeah, I guess anything David Lynch is involved with, too. That should get a shout-out. That should absolutely get a shout-out. The first American Pie movie. Brilliant. Well, what was the American Pie movie? They had that remake of the James song, Laid. It was by, it's just some 90s, early 2000s. I think Matt Nathanson was the guy's name. But he did a remake of Laid, which it was the same as the original. It was just a different artist doing it. But I think it was it the third American Pie or the second? It wasn't the first. But that kind of opened the movie, and it kind of gave a nice new push back into the public spotlight of that song, which is a beautiful song by James, Laid. This bed is on fire with passionate love. The neighbors complain about the noises above. Don't sing it like that. Queen soundtrack from Flash Gordon, 1980. Alfonso says Trainspotting had Iggy, Lou Reed, Primal Scream, Underworld, a great soundtrack. Keen confirms Trainspotting was epic. Curious 49, Clockwork Orange. So there was a lot of classical music in Clockwork Orange. We've talked about Clockwork Orange on this show before. Anthony Burgess doesn't feel like Clockwork Orange was his best work. We talked about why. And remember we did that thing where I even said, okay, everyone that's never seen Clockwork Orange and doesn't want it spoiled, you have to tune out now, because we're going to talk about what went down and why the author was not happy with the way it unfolded. So there's a lot of classical on Clockwork Orange, which, by the way, I mentioned to you guys, I'm not sure if my fiance has seen Clockwork Orange or not. She has not. So that's going to be something we do. We're going to watch Clockwork Orange, and we're going to talk about, hey, this is why the author, wasn't happy with this movie, and here's what the real ending was all about. And we're going to have this in-depth discussion on it, because it kind of switches the theme out a little bit. All right, we can't go down this hole again. We've done it before. Jim gives a shout out to Joy Division. Milk and Ultraviolence. That's a Clockwork Orange reference. Dead Man. Daniel shouts out Dead Man. Favorite movie of his, and the soundtrack is very underappreciated. I've never seen that movie. Dead Man. I gotta see it. Yeah, I've never seen it. 3 Star Wars. Hey, I'll try again. Still best soundtracks. Instrumental was the first 3 Star Wars films, says Melissa. You know, when I went to the Hollywood Bowl reunion show, we talked about it one Music Monday, but I'll never forget, the special unannounced guest was John Williams. It was freaking John Williams. And he came out, and he just, like, waved to the audience, and then he just put his arms up, and it went, da-da, da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and they did the Star Wars theme, and the crowd frickin' went nuts, and it was awesome. All right. So Dead Man, I gotta see Dead Man. The original Batman soundtrack with Prince, King James, good call. I Shot Andy Warhol gets props for having Pavement on. I love Pavement, awesome reference, and yeah, I gotta see that movie. All right. Cool, guys. Saturday Night Fever. And here's a movie I'm totally not familiar with. Breaking Glass. Not familiar. And Blow I'm familiar with. Across the Universe. Of course. Classic. Oh! This is how we gotta end it. Trying to Be Fine. Well done. Dazed and Confused. Brilliant soundtrack. Brilliant movie. If you haven't seen it, do it. And I got to see Dead Man, and I got to see some other stuff. I got to see a lot of stuff. All right. Awesome input. Let's see what's going on in the news. Oh, here. I want to close with this one. So let's go this away. Here we go. So, guys, we talked about this story before on the show, where Google, the new Google Chrome, is going to make it very difficult for ad blockers to do their job. They're basically going to make it so that ad blockers cannot actually block ads, and cannot actually block, third-party cookies and what have you. They can't really help with that anymore. Google Chrome is trying to make it easier for the advertisers and harder for the users who go out of their way to employ these ad blockers. Well, they're changing their tune on that now. Google backtracks on Chrome modifications that would have crippled ad blockers. A study analyzing the performance of Chrome ad blocker extensions published on Friday has proven wrong claims made by Google developers last month, when a controversy broke out surrounding their decision to modify the Chrome browser in such a way that it would have killed off ad blockers and many other extensions. The study, carried out by the team behind the Ghostery ad blocker, found that ad blockers had sub-millisecond impact on Chrome's network requests that could hardly be called a performance hit. Hours after the Ghostery team published its study and benchmark results, the Chrome team backtracked on their planned modifications. At the root of Ghostery's... Okay. So what is Chrome saying about that? Okay, so following the publication of this study, so the study came out that indicated that the Google, the Google Chrome did not screw with the ad blockers the way they said they were going to, and the way they justified screwing with the ad blockers was they were like, oh, well, it's for performance enhancement. All right. So following the publication of this study, Google engineers made it official on a Google Groups posting hours later, announcing a relaxation of the Manifest v3 changes that would have impacted ad blockers. Another clarification is that the web request API is not going to be fully removed as part of the Manifest v3. The extensions ecosystem on Chrome is vibrant and varied and enables myriad use cases that would otherwise be impossible. We are committed to preserving that ecosystem and ensuring that users can continue to customize the Chrome browser to meet their needs. This includes continuing to support extensions, including content blockers, developer tools, accessibility features, and many others. It is not, nor has it ever been, our goal to prevent or break content blocking. And by content, that's a fancy, they mean ad. That's what they mean. Chrome's decision to ship the ad blocker breaking features was doomed from the start. Regular users have grown attached to their ad blockers, and for obvious reasons. Okay, so basically, the new Google Chrome is not screwing over ad blockers the way it was initially reported it was going to. It's not doing that. And when a study revealed it wasn't doing that, Google was like, oh, we never meant to do that. So maybe they did mean to do it, and they just fucked up. The ad blockers outsmarted them. Or maybe they did actually backtrack on it and be like, let's let the people know we're not screwing over their ad blockers because the public outcry was so much. Or maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe they did find a way to continue to enhance actual performance without screwing over ad blockers. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. All that we know is the latest version of Google Chrome does not screw over ad blockers the way it was initially reported it was going to. Boom. So that's a follow-up on a story we did. All right. Let's go over to some national news. Trump faces legal and political challenges after calling a national emergency. This is from Democracy Now! Donald Trump is facing mounting legal and political challenges after he declared a national emergency Friday in an attempt to circumvent Congress and build a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. So here's what Trump said on Friday. The primary fight was on the wall. Everything else, we have so much. As I said, I don't know what to do with it. We have so much money. I could think of some things you could do with money, Donald Trump. I could think, we have so much money. I don't know. I could think of some things. Infrastructure, healthcare for everybody, free college, living wages. I could think of some things you could do with that money. Well, the President of the United States says, hey, we have so much money, we don't know what to do with it. He says that to the face of a country where half of its citizens can't afford a $1,000 emergency. More people go bankrupt over medical bills than any other cause. There's areas where nearly 100% of the people that live there are below the poverty line. People live in food deserts. We have actual food deserts in the richest country in the world. And here's a president that says, we have more money than we know what to do with. Still think there's not a big systemic problem? All right, so anyway, that's enough of his dumb quote. In addition to the nearly $1.4 billion of border barrier funding contained in the newly passed spending bill, Trump plans to divert federal funds from the military and Treasury Department budgets, ballooning the overall cost for the border wall to $8 billion, far more than the $5.7 billion he previously argued for. Trump also said he expects to be sued over the move, but he thinks he'll prevail, citing his Muslim travel ban as a precedent for such a legal path. California, along with the other states including Minnesota, Oregon, New Mexico, and Hawaii, is planning legal action. House Democrats say they will pass a resolution disapproving the declaration, while the White House over the weekend indicated that Trump will veto any congressional efforts to block his plan. So ACLU and Public Citizen also against this. So we're just playing the waiting game at this point. He declared a national emergency when there was absolutely no reason to do so. By his own admission. If you watch Trump's speech, he's like, yeah, this is a national emergency. And then later he goes, yeah, I didn't have to do this. I just wanted to. Can you imagine? Hey, calling night. Hey, what's your emergency? Not really an emergency. I just got this thing I want to run by you. Be like, get off the phone. That's not what this is for. What's your emergency? Well, we got to hurry up and wait to do something about this, but I'd rather do it now. That's my emergency. That's not an emergency. It's not? No, it's not. You're an idiot. Check out that speech. By his own admission, he's like, I didn't have to do this. So we'll see what happens here. You know, I mean, this has been unfolding. But there was no national emergency. It was all bullshit. And the leader of the free world, quote unquote, tells a nation full of people where most of them are struggling that they have more money than they know what to do with. Meanwhile, we're the only industrialized nation in the world that doesn't have a universal healthcare system. We're one of the countries that does not have affordable higher education. Many other countries do. We're one of the countries that, doesn't have transportation solutions. We were just told in California, 5th largest GDP in the world, by the way, we can't figure out a high-speed rail from San Francisco to Los Angeles. We can't figure that out. Apparently, we can't have that. In California, 5th largest economy in the world. We can't have that. Apparently. They have it in China. They have it in Japan. They have it in Europe. We can't have it here. Apparently. We can't have any extensive transportation solutions. We got more money than we know what to do with, but we can't do any of that. We can't do any of that. Why? Because this is a plutocracy. It's not a democracy at all. That's why. All right. So, transitioning here, today is President's Day, and a day I see no reason to give any type of reverence to. Why should I? I mean, there has not been a good president in my lifetime. I don't know what that's like. I've never seen a good president in my lifetime. FDR was a good president because he was cornered to be so. And there were certainly some other, decent act. I mean, Jimmy Carter is a respectable individual who's done respectable things. I disagree. In the contemporary sense, I disagree with him politically. He's against single-payer healthcare, so I disagree with him politically, but I respect his, I respect the charitable work he's done. But overall, to kind of honor this day for an office that is kind of up for sale in a political structure that is deserving of no respect whatsoever. Here's what I think today should be. I think today specifically, and that, because it varies every year, right? Like President's Day, it's whichever that Monday falls on. But today also happens to be Audrey Lord's birthday. Audrey Lord, the only thing of hers I've read is Sister Outsider, and it's incredible. It's an incredible book. I highly recommend it. And Audrey Lord was an American writer, feminist, womanist, librarian, and civil rights activist. So that's something I never knew. I never knew she was a librarian. I never knew that about her. Like I said, I read Sister Outsider back in college. I loved it. Went on to read some of her other poems. She's a brilliant writer. I recommend checking her out. This is her birthday. And that's something that I consider far more noteworthy than President's Day. But Sister Outsider's great. And I never knew she was a librarian. And libraries are one of those things. Hey, by the way, there's another thing I could think to do with some of that money, Donald Trump. Put a little more money into our libraries. Libraries are essential. They benefit a community. And they are dying off, which is horrible. I'm still a library guy. I'm still a big library guy. I go to my library regularly, at least a couple times a month. I check books out. I always have a library book checked out. Always. Whenever I see, like, there's always a random old guy in the library who's carrying a backpack, and he's always complaining, like not harshly, but mildly complaining about something, where he's just like, you guys were supposed to be open at 9 a.m., but there was no one here before 9:10. And everybody standing around is patient with that guy. And you know why everyone's patient with that guy? Because they look at him and they're like, that's us in the future. Like, I look at that guy and I'm like, I can't, that's going to be me someday. Someday I'm going to be like, 10 minutes I've been standing here. And I've been up since 5 a.m. Like, I just assume that's what I'll do when I'm old. Maybe I won't, but I assume that's probably what I'll do. I know some older people that still sleep in. But, generally you start waking up earlier. So I feel like that'll be me. I feel like eventually, when I can wake up early, I'm going to be that dude that's like, I really want to make an effort for fresh baked goods. So I will show up at the bakery at 5 a.m. and be like, yes, nailed it. I'm getting the first bagel out of the oven, the first donut, the first loaf, whatever it may be. And that's what I'll do. And then I'll go to the library and I'll be like, why? It's been 10 minutes. Where are you? You're supposed to be open. I know I'm being very optimistic right now. I'm assuming that in my old age, we'll still be habitating this planet and there will still be libraries. Anyway, back to Audrey Lord here. I wanted to talk about this a bit. So here's some of her quotes just on our Wikipedia. Those of us who stand outside the circle of this society's definition of acceptable women, those of us who have been forged in the crucibles of difference, those of us who are poor, who are lesbians, who are black, who are older, know that survival is not an academic skill. It is learning how to take our differences and make them strengths. For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us temporarily to beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. And this fact is only threatening to those women who still define the master's house as their only source of support. That's a really powerful quote. And I recommend her work. Sister Outsider is the book I've read. I recommend that one big time, but there's a lot of her other works that you can get. And hey, get some Audrey Lord from your local library. Do that. I'm going to read some Audrey Lord this month. I got to finish the current book I'm working on. I'm reading The Dictator's Learning Curve. It's pretty dense, but it's interesting. It kind of talks about different dictatorships around the world, and it talks about different revolutions and young activists around the world. It's an interesting read. But I'm going to be reading some Audrey Lord right after that. So happy birthday, Audrey Lord. That is what is kind of in my mind today as celebratory, not so much President's Day. I don't really care. And I hope some right-wing outlet takes this and they're like, a radical comedian suggests that we celebrate Audrey Lord instead of President's Day. Yes, I do. I highly recommend it to everybody watching. All right. So this is interesting. David shares this. Now, we talked about this a little bit, where there have been students, young students, protesting for climate change. Well, here's an update. How a 7th grader's strike against climate change exploded into a movement. This is from the Washington Post. Democracy dies in darkness. They're doing what they can to help. On the 9th Friday of her strike, 13-year-old Alexandria Villesiner wakes to a dozen emails, scores of Twitter notifications, and good news from the other side of the planet. Students in China want to join her movement. Every week since December, the 7th grader has made a pilgrimage to the United Nations headquarters, demanding action on climate change. She is one of the cadre of young, fierce, and mostly female activists behind the School Strikes for Climate movement. On March 15th, with the support of some of the world's biggest environmental groups, tens of thousands of kids in at least 24 countries and nearly 30 U.S. states plan to skip school to protest. Their demands are uncompromising. Nations must commit to cutting fossil fuel emissions in half in the next 10 years to avoid catastrophic global warming. And their message is firm. Kids are done waiting for adults to save their world. Mom, this is so cool, Alexandria says as she reads the latest list of countries where they have pledged to participate. Australia, Thailand, Ghana, France. Where is Girona? That's in Spain, replies her mother, Kristen Hong. They sit on the couch, sit in their pajamas, and Alexandria pulls out the planner she purchased to keep track of all her commitments. Each task is color-coded by geographic scale. Pink for global organizing, orange for national, yellow for New York. My generation is really upset. Good job. Good job, Alexandria. Good job, all the young activists around the world. That's really, that's one of those things that really kind of reinstates your faith in humanity. When you see these young people taking a stand, and you see the new generation showing an interest. When I was in 7th grade, I never stood for anything. I didn't have any type of convictions, nothing like that. But a lot of kids in this new generation does. They do. Something like this kind of reinstates your faith in humanity. And if you ever want to get knocked back down a few pegs and lose your faith in humanity again, just read the comments section of any given article or video. Just look at the comments. You'll lose it real quick. You'll lose it again real quick. In most cases. Not in every case. In most cases. Just read the comment section of an article about something that has the slightest modicum of controversy. Read the comment section. You'll lose your faith in humanity again. That's sometimes when I get optimistic, I go and I'm like, okay, we're back. But good for her. And good for all those other children protesting climate change around the world. Now, this is something interesting. This stays in the theme of stuff that's going on with the youth. This happened over in Florida. Now, the last story was a pretty uplifting one. This one, not so much. Florida 6th grader arrested after confrontation over the pledge. So this happened in Lakeland, Florida. A Florida 6th grader faces charges of disrupting a school function and resisting arrest after a confrontation that followed his refusal to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. In a statement Sunday, Lakeland police say a school resource officer was alerted to a disturbance created by a student in the classroom. According to police, the student initially refused to leave the room, continued to be disruptive, and made threats while being escorted to the school's office by the officer and the school's dean. Really? Really, you guys? There was an officer there and the dean there, and they just couldn't handle this student, this one student. One student, an 11-year-old. Wow. Okay, let's continue. So the statement says the student was charged based on his failure to comply with the officer and the dean's orders, not his refusal to participate in the pledge. Polk County students aren't required to stand for the pledge. So basically this kid did nothing wrong. So why did they want him to leave the room? Why did they want this kid to leave the room? It sounds like this kid was doing nothing wrong. He knew he was doing nothing wrong. They were fucking with him anyway, so he stood up for himself, and then they dragged him out of class, and now he's getting in trouble. That's what it sounds like to me. So let's continue. Okay, so the boy's mother said the 11-year-old normally declines to stand for the pledge, maybe because he thinks for himself. He had a substitute teacher on February 4th, and she had ordered him to stand up. The boy's mother said the school should have disciplined her son differently. He has moved to a private school. That could make it even worse. In a statement Monday, school district officials said the substitute teacher had not been aware of the policy allowing students to opt out of the pledge. She was asked to leave the school after the boy's arrest, and she would no longer be allowed to work in any of the district schools. Good. Good. Honestly, good. I have no sympathy for the teacher in that situation. None. I mean, it's understandable. Maybe she didn't know about that policy, but a student refuses to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm sure that student told her, hey, we don't have to, actually. And instead of just being like, all right, you get an officer in the classroom You go, oh no, we got to intimidate you. We got to force you to stand. Heaven forbid we encourage you to think critically for yourself. Heaven forbid we say, okay, hats off to you. That's your right. You're expressing, okay, that's cool. No. We got to get an officer in here. We got to get somebody in here. We got to intimidate you. We got to discipline you. And if you don't shut up and comply, we'll force you out of here. I'm glad that substitute teacher will not be working in that district any longer. I hope that substitute teacher never finds their way into another classroom. While we're on, that's a little harsh. No, it isn't. You know why? Because there's a lot of people in this country that do not have jobs, that cannot find work, and that are worthy of work. And there's teachers everywhere that are being mistreated. So if you have somebody that says, oh, here's an opportunity for me to get an officer in here to bully a kid, I'm glad you're not in the classroom. Because the students deserve better. And there are plenty of qualified people out there more deserving of the work. All right. So no one's pressing charges. I guess that's good. Here's what the police department says. A student was arrested for disrupting the classroom on February 4th. To be clear, the student was not arrested for refusing to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, well then why was he arrested? What were you telling him to do? Why did he have to do anything? If he was within his rights not to stand, why did he have to do anything? They don't say. They don't say he refused to stand and then he went over and started punching another student who was standing. And we told him to stop and he wouldn't, so we had to... It doesn't say that. If he did do that, it would say that. You see what I'm saying? If he actually did something disruptive, it would say what he did. They're just saying he refused to follow orders. You mean orders he shouldn't have had to be following in the first place? Because he didn't do anything wrong? He doesn't stand for the pledge on a regular basis? I didn't stand for the pledge when I was in high school. And I remember one time I got called out for it once and I was like, I'm an anarchist. I wasn't. I didn't even really, I was just, it was just like the only defiant thing I could do at the moment. So I did it. You know, I'm not, you know, like I didn't have strong convictions or anything. I just listened to punk rock and I was like, I'm not standing. But I was a smart kid. I got pretty good grades, so they didn't mess with me. They were like, just leave him alone. It's not worth the problem. I was like, I'm within my rights. And they just didn't mess with me. And there was never a substitute that got an officer in there to intimidate me and then remove me for not following orders. That's ridiculous. It's bad enough that every kid in America has to go to school in fear that they're going to get shot at any given moment. They have to have drills now. They have drills on what to do about a school shooting. And you can go on Twitter and look at some of the people you know, or some of the public figures you follow that have children that mention this stuff. You know, a comedian who I get to do shows with occasionally over the Jimmy Dore Show, Dave Anthony, really funny guy. He has a beautiful podcast called The Dollop. I highly recommend it. He was tweeting about what his kid was going through with all this stuff. It's terrifying for them. It's terrifying. They get it drilled into their head. Hey, this is what happens if a shooting is going on. Oh, and that might happen because it happens almost every freaking day. Nearly every day there's a school shooting in this country. So not only do they have to go to school out of fear they're going to get shot any given day, now they have to worry, oh, an officer might just bully them. They might have to just leave the classroom for doing something they're allowed to do. This is something the kid did on a regular basis. And they bullied him anyway. Why? Because they wanted to. Because they knew they could get away with it. Because they knew they could issue a bullshit statement. He was refusing to comply with directions. What directions? One we had no business giving him. Directions we had no business giving him. Because he didn't do anything wrong. Land of the free. It's where we live, right? Land of the free. It's pretty good. All right, so this is the last thing we're going to do because I want to talk to you guys about this because I have this theory and I want to run it by you and see what you guys think. First, I'm going to awkwardly take a sip of coffee. All right. So there's a potential GOP primary challenger for Donald Trump. And, and by the way, the contempt for the American people is behind this possible bid. Okay, so let's look into this. Oh, there's an ad that I didn't want. Go away. The first Republican to announce he is considering a primary challenge to President Trump said he's doing so because Trump has shown contempt for the American people. Let me ask you this. What is more contempt than telling the American people all the things they can't have, than telling them they can't have health care, they can't have affordable college opportunities, they can't have a living wage because they're not worth it. We can't do anything about infrastructure. You want a job opportunity? Go fight in these wars for rich oil tycoons. And you're telling me Donald Trump's the only one that has contempt for the American people just because he talks a little meaner? Donald Trump is absolutely despicable. That's very true. Nobody disputes that. But he is where he is because our system is equally despicable. All right, let's get back to this contender. So former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld told CNN Monday that Trump's 2017 Oval Office meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and then Ambassador Sergei Kislyak struck a bad tone with him, priming him to consider a run against Trump. That showed contempt for the American people, if anything I've ever seen does. Really? That's what it took, Weld? He met with some Russian foreign ministers. That's what it takes? That's contempt. Really? It wasn't. There was no contempt in what he was doing at the border. That wasn't contempt. There was no contempt in his travel ban. That wasn't contempt. There was no contempt in the AHCA, which took healthcare away from 16 million more people. It's bad enough we have a system that leaves 30 million people out in the cold. We want to take healthcare away from more people. No contempt there. No contempt in the fact that this president is trying to completely gut the separation of church and state forever. No contempt there. Oh, no contempt in the completely gutting of the EPA, of having the lobbyists in charge of the EPA that are making that institution even more corrupt than it already was. No contempt in all the appointment of war criminals to further war in Venezuela. That could turn into another Afghanistan, by the way. Venezuela could turn into another Afghanistan. No contempt there. He had a meeting, though. This guy sounds like a real winner. Real winner. All the horrible things the Trump administration has done. This is what this guy points to. All right, so he's launching an exploratory committee for the presidency. There's a very conservative group that's not my base for sure. Okay, who is your base then? There are 20 primaries. All right. So Weld in 2016 was Libertarian Party nominee Gary Johnson's vice presidential pick. Gary Johnson would have went to his house to ask him directly, but he could not find his way there. He recently changed his party affiliation to Republican in the lead up to the launch of the exploratory committee. Okay, so this guy is basically a libertarian. Now this gets into my theory here. So Donald Trump basically is the guy in the GOP. And some Republicans are okay with that. Some Republicans are not. But either way, he's the guy right now. He trounced everybody in the 2016 primary. He went on to win the election. He's not doing so great popularity-wise, but he still has a very excited and angry base that would make any type of primary challenge very, very difficult. So what might happen in the GOP is similar to what happened to the Democrats in 2016. What do I mean by this? So in 2016, everybody was in bed for Hillary Clinton. Everybody, all the superdelegates, everybody. It was Hillary Clinton's year. It was her turn. She was entitled to the presidency. You know, because this is a democracy. We have people, they're just entitled to the presidency. It's just theirs. You know, she told Joe Biden, don't run, it's me. And he said, okay. You know, that's our system. It's very, very respectable. And so it was Hillary Clinton's year. So A guy in Vermont named Bernie Sanders said, well, what the hey, there's got to be some type of opposition here. I have a platform that has been undermined by the Democratic establishment my entire career. I'm going to join up and I'm going to run because no one else is going to. So I might as well kind of throw these ideas out there. He did. And what happened next? A revolution. Because a lot of lefties in this country, or a revolution to an extent, not a full revolution. We're still working on that part. But definitely a paradigm shift. Definitely a paradigm shift. Because you know what happened? People that think like I do, and like a lot of you do that tune into this stream, a lot of lefties realized they weren't as alone as they thought they were. Realized that, no, a lot of people want single-payer healthcare. A lot of people want to end the wars. A lot of people want living wages. A lot of people think that the corporate control of our politics is bogus, that want to get money out of politics. A lot of people feel this way. It's not just a small movement. There's a small movement that is the most vocal, but there's more of you than you realize. And this connects in the heartland. This whole, all this whole they'll never go for a populist. The heartland will never go for a populist. That's bullshit. That's not true. We were fed that bullshit. We thought for a long time it's probably bullshit. Turns out when you get somebody on the stage, you find out it is bullshit. Because in '08, when Kucinich ran, he wasn't given a chance. Because they usually try to stop progressives as quickly as they can. Well, it didn't work this time because Bernie Sanders knew he had nothing to lose. He just went for it. And look what happened. He almost won. He would have won if he wasn't cheated. And then he would have won the general, too. I'm pretty confident Bernie would have beat Trump. And he likely would have won if he wasn't cheated. And so my theory, and I'm going to turn to you guys in a bit, could something like that happen in the GOP this time around, where Trump campaigned as some big outsider. Turns out he wasn't that dude. A lot of us knew he wasn't that dude, but turns out he wasn't that dude. He's just another insider. He's just another insider. His cabinet's full of the same plutocrats. He's got the same warmongers. He's not the anti-interventionist he said he was. Now, could this be time for an actual libertarian? Now, libertarians, we don't agree on everything. We do have a couple things in common. We both want to end the wars. We both want to get money out of politics. Although our plans for what should happen next are quite different. But, nonetheless, could something happen where the GOP gets an infiltration of libertarian-minded folks who are disconnected from the actual GOP? Could this be a time for them? And could somebody like this guy maybe make a dent similar to what Bernie Sanders did in 2016? Is that possible? Could this be? Now, based on this article, and this is my first exposure to this guy, but based on this article alone, I don't know if Bill Weld's the guy to do it. I think that you would need somebody who can really connect to unconventional folks that don't vote, basically, like unlikely voters. You need somebody who can connect with those types of people, who can really excite people at a grassroots level, who can really excite people on different sides of the political aisle because they see them as an outsider. Somebody like a Ron Paul. Like what Ron Paul did in 2008. If somebody like a Ron Paul, and I don't think Rand's the guy, but if somebody like a Ron Paul were to infiltrate in 2020 and run in the primary, I think they might be able to do what Bernie Sanders did in 2016. And then we'd be having a much different discussion in our political sphere as a whole. Because the right would look a lot different than it does now. So, I guess my question is, do you guys think there's anything to that, or am I just, talking bullshit? What do you guys think? Does that hold any water? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It's just something that I'm thinking about. Krillin, I can't believe you never saw the Idiocracy movie. I did see Idiocracy. But thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Let's see. No, corporate buyers won't allow a libertarian to succeed. That's what Dark Roast Lefty said. There are divisions on the right, says Gardenome. I don't know if they go that deep. I mean, we could respond. I mean, we could find out in such a situation. George says progressives can work with libertarians on corruption and constitutional issues. I certainly think so, yeah. You got to go pro small business, but against big corporations and monopolies. I agree with that. Ron Paul makes sense responding to Trump, J.G. Howard says. Some of you guys are saying for Jesse Ventura. I don't know if Jesse Ventura has interest in running. Who in the Republican Party these days is like Ron Paul? That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I can't really, I can't really think of anybody. I mean, I don't know enough about this well guy to say whether he is or isn't. I don't know enough about him. I don't really think Gary Johnson is like a Ron Paul as far as the way he can motivate people. So I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I think that's a valid question. Joseph says, no anti-war candidate will ever be given such an opportunity. Plus, Weld is toxic to GOP base and libertarians. He endorsed Obama in 2008 and supports gun control. So they might write him out. Dave, hey Ron, assuming Bernie declares a 2020 presidential bid, what would be your ideal ticket? Him and Tulsi teaming up. With Tulsi as president, Bernie as VP. If it was the other way around, I'd support it too. I just think for optics' sake, Tulsi would be a little better as president, him better as VP. Lewis, Ron Paul debated Ralph Nader, and it turned out they agreed with each other on 99% of the debate. I think I know the debate you're referring to. I think 99% is a bit optimistic, but they did have some pillars where they were in agreement, i.e. getting money out of politics, i.e. ending the wars and stuff like that. So yeah, progressives and libertarians, we do have some things in common. And there's some important things in common. The GOP is a corporate fascist party. They certainly are. Michael says, Rand Paul likes Canadian healthcare. Did you really just say Gabbard should lead the ticket over Sanders? Yes, I did. I disagree completely. Okay, why? Why? Here's why I think Tulsi should lead it. Tulsi is, first of all, let's just look at optics. She's younger. She's really building a big grassroots swelling. She is a veteran. That would really allow her to reach across the aisle. She has people excited about her on all sides of the aisle already. Whereas Bernie brings wisdom to the table, brings experience to the table, more experience than her. So that's sort of the type of dynamic you like to see in a president-vice president ticket. You like to see the kind of younger go-get-em person leading, and then the kind of like, hey, I'm here, I'm your rock, I'm your wisdom as a VP. And again, I'm just speaking optics here. So you get Tulsi Bernie in that seat. I think they're unbeatable. And again, if it was the other way around, I'd support it. It's not like I'd be like, oh, Bernie's for president, she's for VP, I'm out. Like, no, I'd be in either way. So, yeah. Tulsi Gabbard comes from a family of conservative activists. That's true. Most famous for their opposition to gay marriage in Hawaii. That's also true. Tulsi Gabbard used to hold those views. She no longer does. She has apologized for it many, many times over. She has a 100% rating from the HRC, Human Rights Campaign. She has a 100% rating. Let's see. All right. Tulsi Gabbard was nearly a part of Trump's cabinet at Steve Bannon's suggestion. That is not true. She was never being considered for position. She did have a meeting to talk about issues regarding places she had been to. So that is also not true. So, if you have some real criticisms of Tulsi Gabbard, and they are out there, there are things that some of her stances on torture are worth looking into. Some of her, some of the things she said about being hawkish are certainly worth looking into and are worthy of being held accountable. But, as far as some of those smears that have been debunked many times over, that's just sort of, I don't know, sort of a waste of time to me. Let's see. Lewis David, Jill Stein debated Gary Johnson and they agreed 99% of the time. Lewis, I doubt that's true. I'm not familiar with that, but again, 99%, that's a very high percentage. Gary Johnson is against the type of healthcare system Jill Stein is for. Gary Johnson, I can't imagine is for any type of environmental protections. I don't know that for a fact. I do know for a fact he's against single payer. They agree on getting money out of politics. They agree on ending the wars. Those are big deals. Those are huge deals. Is that 99% of things? No, not quite. Maybe we have a different idea on what 99% is. But yeah, I'm not familiar with that specific debate, but I don't see how that could possibly be true. Jordan says libertarians don't even like Gary Johnson. I know some that did, but yeah. Let's see. Celeste says Tulsi, Secretary of State for 4 years, Nina for Vice. I don't know if Nina's interested in running. I mean, Nina Turner, I would get behind Nina Turner in a heartbeat. I would love to see her run for president or be a VP but I don't know if she has any interest. Or maybe she's not ready yet. And if she's not ready yet, then I support that. I'm for her deciding when she's ready. And if she doesn't feel she's ready yet, I'm for her waiting until she does. Whenever she does, I will get behind her in a heartbeat. I'm a big Nina Turner fan. Nicholas, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. In your view, what issue does Bernie Sanders need to address that will make him a stronger candidate over Tulsi? It's not about who the stronger candidate is. It's about optics. What do I think is the strongest ticket? And for all the reasons I gave, I think Tulsi as president, Bernie as vice president, is the strongest ticket optics-wise. First of all, Bernie, while he does still have a huge movement behind him, there's still a little bit of baggage because some people were disappointed with some of the decisions he's made since 2016. Whereas Tulsi, more of a French face. She still has some skeletons in her closet too. Yes, no candidate's perfect. But, again, she's young, she's inspiring, she's reaching across the aisle, she's a political outsider in many ways, she's a veteran. She's really strong on foreign policy. She has a lot of experience meeting with different people, going to places. She wants to get us out of these wars. And having a rock like Bernie Sanders, who brings about 40 years of experience to the table, that's a very strong ticket. If it was the other way around, Bernie president, Tulsi vice president, would I still support it? Abso-freaking-lutely. That's not a make it or break it thing. I just think optics-wise, Tulsi president, Bernie vice president, strongest optics-wise. Some of you disagree with that. I've yet to see a reason why, other than you just like Bernie better, which that's fine if you like Bernie better, but that's not my question. My question is, why would that be a stronger ticket? Why would Bernie president, Why would Bernie Prez, Tulsi vice president, be stronger? Like, why would that be stronger? And maybe it would be. Okay, here's a Tulsi has no name recognition. You mean like all the name recognition Bernie had when he ran in a primary? In 2016, everybody knew who Bernie was, right? He had all the name recognition. My leftist Bernie supporting candidates have no idea who she is. Let's move her up the ranks. She has time. Yeah, she does. She has a year and a half. The primary hasn't even started yet. Everybody knew Bernie before the primary in 2016? I don't think they did. And then your other reason is my friends don't know her. All right. I mean, sorry. I don't think that's very strong. Oh, not as many people know her yet. You mean like everyone knew Bernie in 2016? Well, my friends don't know her. Okay, your friends don't know her. Let's see. Have you ever been to the Echoplex or Agora Hill? Echoplex, yes. Agora Hill, no. I'm not familiar with that. But I have been to the Echoplex. It's a beautiful venue. I love it. Guys, we are completely out of time. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. Guys, tour dates. I'm on the road. March, I'm going to be in New Orleans, Pensacola, Lafayette, Oxford, Mississippi. You can get tickets now at ronplacone.com. Also have a lot of tour dates that are being announced. We just confirmed Boston, and we just confirmed Philadelphia. Boom. Yes. All right. Guys, also, if you want to support this show on the sustainability end, please do become a patron. Patreon.com/ronplacone for a give what you can level. You get all kinds of exclusive content, including my album, and you help keep this show on the air. And thanks for all the great soundtrack recommendations. I got to see some movies. I got to get some soundtracks. We will be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube. Tune in, tune often, tell your friends, give it a like, give it a share. Peace out.